Welcome to DM the PM Unlock Product Concepts podcast, where we cut through the noise of product jargon to deliver actionable step-by-step insights from industry practitioners, helping founders and product leaders turn complex concepts into clear practical strategies you can apply today. So a bit of intro about me. I'm Diana. I'm your podcast host. I'm a product coach and consultant. I help startups and mid-sized tech companies build impactful products in weeks, not months. And I help drive business growth by creating an efficient product development process, validating ideas early, and establishing effective customer feedback loops. And today we will talk about what it takes to succeed in product. I have the pleasure of welcoming Caroline Clark as my guest for this topic. Caroline has a diverse experience as a product leader across various different companies. I can see you have a preference for B2B health-focused businesses. And now Caroline is a coach. She's an accredited product coach. She helps women in product who feel stuck and unsure about their career to find and carve their own path through high-impact coaching. And this is why she's a brilliant person to really take us through what are the skills needed to succeed in product. One, because of her vast experience as a product leader, but also because of her experience working directly with people going through those challenges at the moment. And I have to admit, Caroline, the other thing I love about all your content on LinkedIn is you have a passion for space and also passion for psychology, but you're bringing those together in your content. And I love that unified vision that you have. So it's brilliant. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Diana, and thank you for the feedback on the space and psychology thing, because it's somewhat eclectic, but yeah, finding a way of bringing it together. Two big passions in my life.
Do you have any advice on how do you actually set, not necessarily goals, but like to be like, okay, I want to focus on my strengths and I want to take this skill to the next level. How do you actually go about that? How do you make time for it? How do you assess it?
Yeah. So once you've identified what it is that you want to improve, then, we can apply the product management mindset of get your baseline. How are you performing at the moment? And if we take public speaking as an example, it could be that the thought of doing any sort of public speaking completely freaks you out. So you're not doing anything. So that's your baseline. No public speaking and feeling scared, anxious, nervous about doing that. And then I think it's figuring out where you want to go. So I would like to give a talk to, 100 people on a topic that I'm very knowledgeable in. That would be a very realistic goal. Set a timeline for you to achieve that, 6 months, whatever. And then it's breaking that down into smaller steps. So you don't go from 0 to 100 in one step. And I think there's a lot of sporting analogies that we can bring in here.
Nice.
Learning to ride a bike, playing tennis, and so on. So what might be the first step? It might be that you write some points out yourself and just practice speaking those to yourself. Then it might be adding in recording yourself. So again, it's only you that's going to see this and know that this is happening, but you're getting comfortable with hearing your own voice and not relying on notes necessarily to talk about what it is that you want to talk about. Then it might be getting a couple of people that you really, really trust, who you know are going to be super encouraging and supportive together, and sitting around a table and giving a talk to them, then standing up, then maybe adding in a few more people, maybe some people who you're not sure how they're going to take it. So,
Yeah.
It's what Lev Vygotsky calls the zone of proximal development. It's just pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone into that stretch area where you're just testing yourself, but testing yourself in a really safe way. This isn't about putting you into a panic about it. And then I think as you do the practice, and it is about the reps, going to the gym, working out, getting fit, it's the same thing with building soft skills, is to get some feedback from people. So that situation where you've got like a couple of supporters who are really encouraging, get their feedback. That positive feedback is reinforcing you and helping to build your confidence. And then as you progress, you might get feedback from your manager, from peers in your team, in other teams as well. And look at what they're saying and what they're not saying. And the thing with feedback is you don't have to take everything that they say to heart. It's looking for the patterns. So what are the themes that are coming out? Oh, like my body language appears to be really, really nervous. Like I'm wringing my hands. My voice is a bit faltering. And then these are things that you can target again in practice. So yeah, make sure you've got that to kind of help you gauge how you're progressing.
Yeah.
And periodically take a step back and really review it against your baseline as well, where you started, just to see how far you've come.
Yeah, I think definitely I like, because one of the questions I wanted to ask, and you covered it already really well, is around experimentation. You have to make time for trying things out. So if you said, okay, I'm going to go on this path, or I want to evolve it, improve this skill, is make the time or create those situations exactly like you would with a product. Think through, okay, what are situations where I can try this out, and I like also closing feedback loops, so asking people to give you feedback, and sometimes maybe even explaining the context to them, isn't it? So if another thing is around communication in big meetings, you could have a few people there to give you feedback afterwards. Be like, look, this is what I'm doing. I want to get better at this. Let me know your feedback. That's really useful. Thank you. I'm going to definitely apply some of those things myself. I'm going to make a list of what skills. Storytelling is one that I personally want to get better at. I need to create a bit of a layer view of where do I want to be and what should I do in between. Now we've done that threshold concept, I was thinking to go into myths. So that's like what things people tend to get wrong about career progression in product. And maybe we already cover some of these, but it would just be good to kind of close that in.
Yeah, and this is a question that comes up quite a lot in the product communities I'm part of as well. Is like, how do I progress? Like, it's this wide open field ahead of us in product. For people that are just starting out, you may have some really great examples, you may not. If you're working in a startup and you're the only product person, who have you got inside your company that you can look at as a great example of where to take your career? So I do think, just to plug communities there, it's a great way of connecting with other people in your situation across the network. So myths, I think there's 3. The first is thinking that you've got to have all of your career figured out. And I made this one fairly early on in my career, thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a CPO one day because that's what I thought everyone else was doing and that's what I thought the career path was. And as I went through my career, I realised that actually that's really not what I wanted to do. I look at the CPO role now and what would be expected of you and dynamics of the C-suite, and I'm like, I would not succeed in that level. But early on, I felt a lot of pressure to have it figured out and kind of made a snap judgment that that was what I was going to do. Now, I think particularly in the early stage of your career, there's benefits to being a little bit opportunistic. So on average, and this is just an average, so there are extremes, people stay in a role for about 2 to 3 years. So when you're in a role, you don't need to be thinking like 20, 30 years, my whole career. You only need to be thinking perhaps about your next step. So for the next 2 to 3 years, what would I like to work on? It makes it much more realistic in terms of planning and thinking. And then you can be, to your point, experimenting within that as like, I do this one role in new products and then I think I want to go into technical, so I'm going to specialize for a couple of years. And yeah, that's really interesting. I'm going to continue that. Or maybe actually I want to try something else. It's 2 to 3 years, it's quite contained. It's not 20, 30 years. So yeah, thinking that you've got to have it all figured out. And alongside that, thinking that you can't change track. So earlier I mentioned about starting as a generalist PM and then moving to a specialist or moving into people management. Like these are three, you can think of them as three separate tracks. And there is no rule that says you've got to pick one and stick with it. Like you can switch tracks. You can go up, you can go down, you can go lateral, side to side. It's the concepts that Sheryl Sandberg talked about in Lean In of the jungle gym. So it's not a career ladder. There's lateral opportunities to explore as well. And even within the role that you do, say you're a generalist PM, that, you know, there's projects or initiatives that you could get involved in within product or across the company that help you develop the skills that you want. So thinking about public speaking, for instance, it might be that there's a volunteering program and you need to coordinate volunteers. And part of that is like a kickoff session where you're going to stand on stage and present or give awards at the end. You know, there's opportunities even within the role to develop skills. So keep your eye out for those as well. And then I think the third myth is that in order to progress, you need to become a people manager. So it's classic, isn't it, that you look at the higher up levels in an organization and they are responsible for managing people, having people reporting directly into them. And I think that's one thing I want to call out with the specialist track and with the generalist track is that you get individual contributors all the way up to quite a senior level now. So it's about having that conversation with your manager, being super clear on what it is. And again, like it's not set in stone. So you can go and be a people manager for a couple of years, figure out if that is the track you want to continue on or not do that and go into specialist. But there's no cap on that. You can have quite senior, strategic individual contributors. And I think in the engineering job family, that looks like things like chief architect. So why can't we have the same in product? Perhaps what we have to do is have these conversations and create these opportunities for ourselves. If it doesn't exist, that doesn't mean that it can't exist. It means that we might have to create it.
That's a really good one. And I think this is where it brings it all together. So thank you so much for going through those. And I completely resonate with them because especially if you're a high achiever or a person who wants to progress, you know, because obviously this is people who are like, how would you make in products? They have ambition to do really well. You want to know where you're going to be, but it's becoming a lot harder because things are changing. You can't predict what roles are going to exist in the next 20 years because technology has a place in this. So you have to really think back about what do I enjoy, what lifestyle I want, like other questions that I think when I started out with that, 10 years ago, I didn't ask myself these questions. I was like, okay, that seems like a place that has a ladder and I can go up the different layers. And I think I really like that. It comes back to strengths as well. But it just put so much more focus on you owning that, asking yourself those questions. So I think that's a big change, I think, in the way people think about what matters on what skills should I build for what. I think you have more freedom, but with freedom, you also get a lot of confusion.
Yes, there is that downside. I think that's where, working with a coach, before I became a coach, I had worked with several coaches through my career. And it was at those crossroads moments where I was like, which direction do I go in? So probably 5 or 6 years ago, I was thinking of starting my own business then and had a session with someone that I really trusted as a coach. And, she really helped me figure it out. Like, what were the decision points? Coming back to experimentation, it's not set in stone. Like, you can do this for 6 months, explore this as a bit of a side hustle, see where it takes you. Like, if you don't try these things, you don't know necessarily. And I think coaching can give you that space to safely explore what it is as well.
Or to make a plan, isn't it? To be like, okay, what are the different options? And it's a lot of this reflection time. And when I I had a few coaches and I have some coaches now is it's around taking the time for yourself to stop, ask better questions, and then leave you with that food for thought around how should I approach this? What are my options? You go a lot wider than just being in the day-to-day.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anyone's got it 100% figured out.
Well, exactly. And I think that's why I really like your three kind of elements framework, because the one anyone can work on is that relation with them, like seeing themselves as a leader and being comfortable with change. I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways for me. Thanks so much for the myths section. I think that's, we've been able to break a few of them and give people more freedom to think about stuff. And coming back to thinking about things, as product managers, we're really good at setting a vision, a strategy, a roadmap for our product. And obviously a big theme of everything we've been chatting through has been you're the owner of your own career. So if you're the product manager of your own career, you should also set your own vision, strategy, roadmap. And I wanted to ask if you had like any advice, what actions can they take now to start thinking about their career in that way?
Yeah. So something you were saying before, Diana, about lifestyle, I think, our relationship with work and careers is changing. Career is one part of life. So a question to start with might be, what's your vision for your lifestyle? And with that will fall out questions around what kind of income do you need to earn? What kind of work would you do that offers you flexibility, if that's important to you, or status, or opportunities for, that personal fulfillment, the very top part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization. Is work going to be a vehicle for you for achieving self-actualization? And some of the clients that I work with, when they work with me, they start out with like, yes, career is really, really important to me and I want to get ahead and I don't want to be seen to be falling behind my peers if I prioritize other things. But it's almost like the keeping up with the Joneses. And when you really start to pull that back of like, what are people's values? What are your values? It's not necessarily about status or having a certain income or wealth in terms of like how capitalism would portray it. Wealth can be defined in lots of different ways. And for some people, that is actually maybe focusing on family and having a really strong, loving family relationship, doing things with the children, doing things with their partner. It could be volunteering with a cause that is really, really close to their heart. So I think, we are fed this message, again, through neoliberalism, capitalism, patriarchy, of how we should behave and what we should aspire to. But it's really peeling those layers back and thinking about what really gives you energy and how you want to live your life. So I think that when we're talking about vision, it's those bigger things and how it all fits together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And that's what you're striving for. And work is one component that helps you achieve that. So career vision then comes from that. Career strategy is how you're going to achieve that. And to come back to that 2 to 3 years on average that we spend in a role, a tool that I found that's really helpful is the career goal statement. So this might be when you're considering your next move, whether that's promotion, progression, new job, is to go through this exercise. So I'll walk you through it.
Okay, yeah.
As a statement, it goes in the next, and then you set the time frame. So in the next 6 months, for instance, I will, and the goal that you want to achieve, I will get a new job at, and then the company. So it could be at a B2B health tech startup. It could be at a specific brand name, if that's where you want to go. To achieve this, I will, and here's where you specify the resources, the knowledge, and the skills. So that includes people that you know, your network, your skills that you've already got, your experience. I know that this is possible because And then you list out your strengths, your skills, your success. So those are the things that you're going to really draw on to help you achieve your career goal. And then the final part is I will know I'm progressing when, and then specify what the leading metrics are. And it's got to be leading, not lagging. So it's those early indicators that know you're on the right track. So if you're going for a new job, it could be that you've got 4 prototype CVs for different kinds of roles that you would be interested in. It could be that you've submitted however many applications and got so many interviews or callbacks. Yeah, really, really thinking about what that next step is and using the career goal statement to put some structure around that and hone in on what it is that you need to do to achieve that.
Wow, that's really useful, because it's like, that's again another area I always struggle with, is like, how do you break something from a vision down to correlation between this action I'm taking tomorrow is going to help me go in that direction. This is a really good one. Could I use that one for skills as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I had in mind that storytelling. Maybe I could use that to like, I will whatever version of storytelling I want to do and then break it down. It's a very good template. Are you using it?
I have used it, yeah, several times since I first came across it. I can't claim credit that it was me that invented it. You can Google it and it's online, but I've definitely found it personally useful in helping me navigate career decisions.
And yeah, I guess sometimes if you are stuck in career decisions, you could also put the things you'll experiment with to be like, is this a good idea? Is this, how would I know whether I want to invest the time? Because I've done a similar thing when I was studying, full-time employment, and I started creating content. And it was kind of like that side gig to be like, would this lead to anything? Would I enjoy doing it? Because there's a lot of consistency. And then obviously I did. So here I am. But yeah, setting time or setting the specific goals alongside what you're currently doing, it is requiring time and reflection, but it really pays off in the long term.
Yeah,
Nice.
It definitely does.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm going to add all the different resources that you mentioned that are accessible on the link, as well as like with the podcast. So if people want to check those out, great. And are there any like parting words or ways in which people can reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have quite a common name, Caroline Clark, but I have FRSA at the end of my name if people want to search for me. Or, come find me via the company page, Caroline Clark Coaching. Yeah, you can catch me on LinkedIn. You can catch me at different community events as well.
Nice. Yes, thank you so much for today. I personally got a lot of it. Now,
you're welcome.